Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jerome Foundation's 2025 Minnesota Film Production and Film Mentorship Grants Information Webinar. We're joining you today from the homeland of the Dakota people, Minnesota Makoche, also called Minnesota, in the current home of 11 tribes, 4 Dakota and 7 Anishinaabe. And we also have staff joining from the land of the Lenape, Munsee, Canarsie, and many other tribes in what is also called New York City. And these are our 2 funding areas. We honor and respect the tribal sovereignty, rights, and cultural resilience of the many Native and Indigenous peoples connected to these lands. I'm Eleanor Savage. I'm the president of Jerome Foundation. I am pronoun flexible, and I invite my colleagues to introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is TA. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a program officer at the Jerome Foundation, and I'm based in the Twin Cities.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nala Gustin. I'm based in New York City. My pronouns are she and they, and I work as the program strategist.
I'm Andrea Brown. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the finance and operations manager at Jerome, and I'm also based in the Twin Cities.
Thanks all. If you have any access needs as we move through the webinar, please private chat Nell and she will help you. This session will be recorded and posted to our website if you want to revisit it later.
So we've got about an hour together today, and our agenda is to share a bit about our founder, Jerome Hill, and the Jerome Foundation, provide an overview of both the production grant and the mentorship grant, noting how they differ, review the eligibility requirements, and we'll spend a good amount of time focusing on eligibility. This is because we value you and your time, and our hope is to ensure that only eligible filmmakers are investing their time in this application process. We'll walk through the application, the review process, and the review criteria. This information is available from the program and application guide for each program. You can download those from our website, and I'll drop those links into the chat right now. And after we're done kind of presenting, we'll have a Q&A. So you can type your questions into the Q&A box. If you want to send your question anonymously, you can choose to do so by clicking on that Send Anonymously box. Otherwise, your audio will be muted for this presentation.
To share a little bit more about the Jerome Foundation, the foundation was established in 1964 by Jerome Hill, who was a filmmaker, composer, painter, and philanthropist. He started his film career by releasing 2 short films with Warner Brothers and won an Academy Award in 1957 for his documentary Albert Schweitzer. He turned to experimental film in the 1960s, incorporating nonlinear storytelling, painting directly onto film stock, using abstract imagery, integrating soundscapes and music, and exploring memory and dream sequences. His works are in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art, and you can actually view them on our website on the founder page. In addition to his own work, Jerome supported many experimental filmmakers and other artists during his lifetime before starting the Jerome Foundation. Jerome is unique among funders, and our sole focus is on funding early career artists and the arts organizations that serve early career artists in Minnesota, which is Jerome's home state, and the 5 boroughs of New York City where he lived most of his adult life.
And I want to share information about Jerome's principles and values, because in the spirit of transparency, we want you to understand what guides our grant making and how this is integrated into our application and the review criteria that we use for evaluating applications. Through our principles, we are committed to eliminating disparities and improving access and outcomes to ensure the equitable viability of artists and culture bearers and arts organizations in our funding areas. And we are focused on creating belonging for diverse artists whose cultural narratives and practices have been and continue to be excluded. We recognize that there's a dynamic relationship between our values of creative risk-taking and innovation. And we support artists who expand, question, experiment with, or reimagine creative practices and experiences across artistic fields. What we mean by humility is that we work for artists rather than the reverse. And we believe that artists are the best authorities to define their needs and challenges. We want to support artists who embrace their roles as part of a larger community of artists and citizens and who consciously work with a sense of purpose and responsibility. Our hope in sharing this information about our focus is that it helps you in considering your alignment with Jerome's priorities.
The two programs we will discuss today are the Film Production Grant and the Filmmaker Mentorship Program. The production grant is up to $30,000 for a film that will be in production between November 2025 and April 2027. The grant funds may be used to support other stages of production, but must include production. The mentorship grant is up to $10,000 for a self-designed mentorship with experienced directors or other film professionals to strengthen your directorial and/or other professional skills in connection to a specific film production project. Both programs support early career film directors who reside in the state of Minnesota and who work within the ever-expanding genres of experimental, narrative, animation, or documentary films, and any hybrid combination of these forms. Individuals or co-directing teams may apply. Co-directors submit a single application and will share the grant funds equally. Grants are awarded only to the directors or single members of a co-directing team, and funds are issued only to individuals or single member LLCs. Applications may not be submitted by fiscal sponsors, production companies, multi-member LLCs, or other organizations, including nonprofits. Here on the slide, you can see the 2023 round of production grant program awardees. There were 19 artists and collaborative teams who applied, and 4 were awarded grants. 2023 was the second round of the mentorship grant, formerly known as the Artist Development Program. 9 artists applied and 2 were awarded grants. Andrea will drop a link into the chat where you can learn more about the past grantees and their projects.
The application is now open. And to support you in understanding your alignment with Jerome's grant programs and the application process, we've developed some webinars in addition to this one on specific topics, as well as the downloadable PDF on our website with the complete guidelines and application details. And for those who may have applied previously to either of these grants, we encourage you to review those documents because there are changes that are made every grant cycle. For film production applicants, we'll have a workshop on the application questions in February, and we'll also have a live Q&A session in March. That's so you can drop in and ask any questions live. We also ask that you have any eligibility-related phone appointments with Jerome's staff by March 28th. Filmmaker mentorship applicants must complete their mandatory eligibility call with Jerome staff by March 28th, 2025. And I'll drop in links to register for all those events in a little bit in the chat. We also have CV, work sample, and film budget webinar videos highlighting some best practices for developing these application materials. And I'll drop those links in as well. I do want to note that the application deadline for both programs is Thursday, April 3rd. Applications are due before 4 p.m. Central Time. We do not accept late applications, so please take note of that deadline date and time. You'll be notified of your application status no later than October 20th, and we'll publicly announce the grantees in the fall of 2025. Grantees will be able to receive funds between November 2025 and April 2027.
Let's dive into the application process. Like Andrea said, we really recommend that you start by reading the program and application guides. We provide this detailed information because we know the time it takes to complete a grant application and want to be fully transparent about the requirements. We also encourage that you review the support materials we offer, like those guidance videos that we mentioned. The eligibility quiz is required before getting to the main application. This is to help avoid anyone who is not eligible from investing valuable time and energy in completing an application. For the production grant, applicants must complete the required eligibility quiz before getting to the application, as I said. And for the mentorship grant, a call with Jerome staff to confirm eligibility is required. You'll receive a link to the application after you complete this call. And if you have any questions, we welcome you to get in touch with us, make an appointment, and we can assist you. So now we'll walk through all the elements of eligibility. Eligibility requirements are largely the same between the two programs, and we'll just note where they differ. If you are applying as a co-directing team, all members of the team must meet all eligibility requirements. We'll start with the Jerome Foundation Aligned Focus. So we support, as you know, early career film directors. That means you're a director with a clear ongoing commitment to filmmaking who engages in creative risk-taking. The foundation considers risk broadly and invites you to share the ways you define and are engaging in creative risk-taking. How are you expanding, questioning, experimenting with your own approach to filmmaking? We seek filmmakers pursuing innovative approaches who have a clarity of purpose and vision for imaginative storytelling, who are engaged directly with those involved in their filmmaking, and who are working to build relationships with and impact their creative community and the field. There's more detail about all of this in the review criteria section of the program and application guide that begins on page 10. For geographic focus, applicants must be residents of the state of Minnesota, and you have to have lived here for at least 1 year at the time of the application and plan to be residents during the span of the grant period, which is through April 2027. Please note that Jerome does not require citizenship, but does require residency in a social security number or an ITIN for tax purposes.
Next, we'll talk about film requirements and eligibility. So the production grant is open to filmmakers creating short or feature-length films in the genres of experimental, narrative, animation, documentary, or any hybrid combination of those forms. Films must be in production between November 2025 and April 2027. Funds can be used to support all stages of production, but at least 50% of the funds must be directed towards production. Films that will solely be in development or pre-production during the grant period should not apply in this round, and films that have already completed production and moved into post are not eligible. Applicants to the mentorship grant must have a film project that serves as the focus of the mentorship and development activities. The project may be in any phase of production between November 2025 and April 2027. Both programs do not fund retroactively, so only the costs incurred after the grant is awarded and the grant agreement is signed will be supported. Furthermore, grantees must accept all grant funds between November 13th, 2025 and April 2027, but are not expected to complete the project in question by April 2027. So we encourage you to think carefully about your production schedule and your life schedule before applying. The production grant is only awarded to a film director once per film, and the mentorship grant is only awarded to a film director once in their career. So next we'll move to experience level and career stage. So the Jerome Foundation expansively frames the early career spectrum as film directors with at least a 2-year track record of directing and presenting their own projects, and with no more than 10 years of directorial experience. This does not include first-time, so I'll say it more clearly, first-time film directors would not be eligible for the program. The mentorship grant is, however, designed to be of greatest benefit to directors in somewhat between their 2nd and 5th year in the field, and panels can make such artists their highest priority when evaluating applications. Age is not a factor in determining eligibility or career status, and the foundation recognizes that career paths can be nonlinear or disrupted along the way, and the foundation additionally acknowledges that the number and types of opportunities afforded to directors may differ significantly depending on race and ethnicity, class, gender, physical ability, and geography, among other factors. We also recognize that some directors may experience significant success and move past early career status well before their 10th year of practice. So in the eligibility quiz, there's a detailed listing of awards and prizes that may impact eligibility for this grant. For the production grant, if you wish to discuss any aspect of your eligibility, you should take that eligibility quiz and contact Jerome staff no later than March 28th to discuss. And for the mentorship grant, you are required to schedule a call with Jerome staff before the 28th in order to move forward with your application.
Next, we'll talk about requirements around the number of projects you've directed. So the foundation awards early career film directors who have created enough work to communicate who they are as makers, their unique style, and their original voice. So eligibility is limited to filmmakers who have at least 2 completed film projects, so a minimum of 10 minutes total running time. Production grant applicants may have no more than 2 feature-length film directing credits for fully produced works. That's running time of 50 minutes or more per film. Mentorship grant applicants may not have any feature-length completed projects. Produced works are those that you have completed and released through distribution on streaming platforms, broadcast networks, cable television, or national public media, or screened through theatrical, educational, and/or festivals, or acquired by film distribution companies. There are also requirements for your work samples. Applicants are required to provide 2 work samples of completed films they have directed. One of the 2 work samples must have been completed and publicly screened and not just self-presented, and made post-enrollment in a degree program if applicable. Applicants must provide information on the location or platform where the work has been screened. The second work sample must be completed, but there is no public screening requirement. It may have been screened or self-presented or not yet screened, and may also have been completed while you are in a degree granting program, if applicable. Public screening includes, but is not limited to, film festivals, presenting venues or community organizations, or via online screening platforms with a juried or curated selection process and/or through project grants. Films that have been only presented through a film director's own platforms or through uncurated sign-up or first-come, first-serve formats are not considered publicly screened. Film directors who are entirely self-presented and who have no additional engagement opportunities with their community through public screenings, festivals, and/or competitive grants or prizes are also not eligible. For individual applicants, work samples must be solely directed works, not work completed as part of a co-directing team. And for co-directing applicant teams, work samples must be works completed by the co-director's name of the application. So in other words, not solo works or works done as part of different co-directing teams. This program also requires that the applicant is the director of the proposed film. This is an individual artist grant awarded to directors of new original film projects. So the director applying must own the copyright of the project, have artistic, budgetary, and editorial control, and be listed in the film credits as the director. Commercial, industrial, or work for hire, PSAs, journalistic work, short turnaround filmmaking contest videos, or music videos over which the film director does not have creative control cannot be used to confirm eligibility and cannot be the focus of a grant project or used for work samples in the application. We understand the creative value of this work, but because of its nature, it does not provide panelists the opportunity to understand the film director's voice and vision. Again, a reminder that individual directors must meet all eligibility requirements to apply, and individual applicants must be the sole director of the proposed film. And projects created with a co-director will not count towards eligibility and may not be used as work samples.
Next, I'll offer some more detail for co-applicant teams. So co-directing teams of 2 directors may apply as long as both applicants meet all of the individual artist eligibility requirements. So that means that only eligible co-directors may be included in the application. So for example, someone who is a resident of California or someone who is a producer and a cinematographer, but not also a co-director for the project cannot be included in the application. Co-directing applicants may not submit work samples directed individually or co-directed with anyone other than the co-applicant. Applicants may be required to affirm co-creation of all work samples. Co-directing applicants may not include individually created projects or projects co-directed with other artists not included in the application to establish eligibility. Co-directors submit a single application and share the grant funds equally. To apply, all co-director applicants must meet all the eligibility requirements for individual film directors. And finally, producers, cinematographers, screenwriters, editors, actors, interdisciplinary artists who are not also primarily film directors are not eligible. And so that means that an editor or actor who's looking to make their first film would not be eligible for this grant. And similarly, a choreographer making a dance film, a visual artist who wants to incorporate video as part of an installation, a technology-centered artist, game creator, or artist doing other kinds of interactive work are not eligible. So next we'll talk about age. There are some eligibility requirements, simply that the applicant must be 18 years of age or older. However, age is not a determining factor for early career stage, and artists may begin directing their own original work at any age.
So formal training in a degree granting programs is neither expected or required. However, filmmakers who are currently enrolled in a degree granting program are not eligible to apply. So this includes MFA, PhD, or low residency MFA students. Filmmakers who have graduated by April 3rd, 2025 must have at least one completed film created outside of their time in the degree program to meet the work sample requirements for eligibility. The number of years in a degree program are deducted from that total 10 years, which is counted towards that 2 to 10 year cap of Jerome's early career parameter. And lastly, full-time tenured faculty or the equivalent at any college, university, or institution of higher learning at the time of the application or as of April 3rd, which is the deadline for the application, are not eligible to apply. Finally, there are some eligibility criteria that's specific to your status within Jerome Foundation. So filmmakers may not apply with more than one application. So you cannot apply as an individual and then also as part of a co-directing team. You cannot apply as part of multiple co-directing teams, apply for multiple projects, or apply to both the production and the mentorship programs. Eligible filmmakers who have previously received Jerome grants are eligible if they have completed all reporting requirements for any direct grant received from the foundation. So this includes the Jerome Hill Artist Fellowship, Jerome at Camargo, or a previous production or mentorship grant. And just a reminder that mentorship grants are only awarded once to a filmmaker. Directors who have received a production grant through this program may not reapply for additional funding for the same film. Again, a reminder that a single film may not receive more than one grant from this particular program. Directors who have received a grant through this program previously may not apply for funding for a new film until the previous grant is completed. And Jerome Hill Artist Fellows may not use this grant to support the same costs covered by the fellowship funding.
So because each program is different, I'm going to focus on eligible projects for the production program here. So eligible projects include new works of any length in the genres of animation, documentary, experimental film, narrative, or any combination of these forms. The foundation has no preference for subject matter or genre. Panelists who review applications and recommend grants are asked to equally consider all genres and forms, and any budget, large or small, qualifies. Applicants are expected to demonstrate their experience and capacity for the proposed story, content, and form. If a project includes or focuses on specific people or communities, applicants will be asked to demonstrate the degree to which meaningful relationships with the film participants have been developed. This program supports film directors who present work in non-traditional venues, in addition to those who may screen work in traditional theatrical spaces, including festivals or broadcast channels. Grassroots screenings may also take place in community centers, churches, restaurants, residence halls, health clinics, outdoor spaces, and other places where people gather, including virtual spaces. All of these spaces are eligible. So next we'll speak about the kinds of project funds that you can devote funding from a production grant towards. So these are all expenses that the foundation funds related to the various stages of production. The key to keep in mind is that this is a production grant. Though all stages of production are eligible for support, this grant This grant cannot be used solely to support pre-production, post-production, or distribution. At least 50% of the funds must be for production. Films that are primarily in post-production during the grant period are of a lower funding priority. The proposed project must be in production at some point during the grant period of November 2025 through April 2027. Funds may not be used to study in a degree granting program or commercial or promotional production.
Now we'll shift our focus to eligible activities for the mentorship program. The mentorship grant is designed to give filmmakers opportunities to engage in self-designed mentorship while actively working on a specific new film work. This program seeks to advance the creative practice and our career development of early career film directors. Applicants must have a solid grounding in filmmaking and clearly identify the skills they are pursuing, the strategy for achieving their mentorship goals, and the way the mentorship will support their film work. The proposed mentorship activities must occur during the grant period of November 2025 through April 2027. Applicants are required to have a phone conversation with Jerome staff by March 28th to ensure that the mentorship plan and budget request meets the program focus. So we'll drop that link in the chat. And you'll see that link in the program application information packet as well. Now we'll move on to some examples of the type of expenses the foundation funds related to the mentorship grant that you could use these funds for. So like I said, this is a grant to support mentorship activities. This is not a production grant. Your budget should not include any production funds. If your focus is on production, you should consider applying to the production grant program because we have a grant for that. And funds may not be used for study in degree granting programs or commercial or promotional productions.
All right, so we'll talk now about the application. There's an application for each program and they're a bit different. The emphasis for the production grant is on the film project, while the mentorship grant focuses on your self-designed mentorship and skills development activities. After completing the eligibility quiz, you'll provide work samples accompanied by additional contextual and factual information, upload a CV, respond to questions related to the review criteria, and provide a budget. The program information for both programs includes application questions so that you can see these before you start the application in Submittable.
Work samples are a critical component of the application. You must be credited as the director on all submitted work samples, and all work samples must be work that you yourself have conceived and generated. We ask for Vimeo or YouTube links to the full works if possible. Trailers are not permitted. 2 work samples must be from completed works. You should not submit rough cuts or works in progress for your required samples. You will identify 10 minutes total across both work samples for the panelists to review. Panelists want to see uninterrupted sequences of work in real time. A third work sample is optional for those applicants who are submitting works in progress footage of the project they're applying with. If you started production on your project, we encourage you to include the sample and identify a 3-minute sequence for panelists to watch. For each work sample, we are going to ask for a Vimeo and YouTube link and the password if applicable, a description, including the name of the work, the year completed, running time, where the work has been publicly screened, and any awards or grants received in support of this project. Your role in the project is also important. We are just again going to emphasize that you must be credited as the director. You can have other roles in addition, like editor, producer, that you can list here as well. Next, we're going to ask for the cue-in times to your work sample, keeping in mind those limits. So note that you can only provide 1 cue-in point or sequence per sample. Panelists want to see uninterrupted sequences of the work in real time. So for your cue-in point, you could say something like start at 3 minutes and 30 seconds and go to 8 minutes. You would not say start at 1 minute, go to 1:30, then jump to 2:45 and watch till 3:45. Next, you will have the opportunity to give context for the work sample. Remember that people may or may not know you or your work, and they'll be looking at those cued-in sequences, trying to get a sense of who you are. And so the notes in the context field can help panelists understand what they're looking at. And you might, for example, write about how scene that you're choosing fits into the larger arc of your work, and if there are any specific stylistic aspects of the work that you would want the panelists to pay attention to. And for an in-progress work sample, you might note what work remains to be done on the project. And we have a whole webinar on how to prepare a work sample, and we encourage that you check that out with the link in the chat. So the production grant is also going to ask for additional sample materials. So for anyone making a narrative film or a hybrid film with a narrative element, we require a script sample for the proposed budget. You're going to be asked to upload a full film script as a PDF. The script excerpt allows the panel to gauge the quality of your writing and assess your ability to create character, structure, and rhythm. And if you don't have a final script, you can upload a draft or a partial script. If you don't have any form of a script, the panel will not have enough information to consider your proposal, and you should not apply in this round. So if you work in narrative film, but don't work from a script and instead rely on an improvised process, you can explain that process and submit an alternative to the script sample, possibly an improvisational structure or outline that helps the panel assess your skills in directing and unscripted work. You are also strongly encouraged to make sure that one of your work samples was developed through this improvised process. A concept, storyboard, project outline may be provided for films in any genre, but it's not required. You have the option to upload a storyboard, outline, lookbook, visual concept to help the panelists gauge how you're developing the film characters, structure, rhythm, and visual concept.
On to the CV part of the application. CVs must be current and complete and clearly represent your film directing experience and any other related film experience. Bios and resumes are not acceptable for this application. The CV is your chance to present your background, experience, and accomplishments to the panel. We ask that you have a section at the top that clearly lists your directed work. And please do not group your directing work with your other film experience, like for example, your editing, or acting work, etc. These should be in separate sections. We also ask that you be specific about project titles, the length of the project, year of completion, and your specific role on each film. And if you're applying as a co-directing team, each individual will upload their own CV. We also have a video that walks through tips on organizing your film director CV, and that link will also be available in the chat and found on our website.
Another element of the application is your response to questions, both about your proposed film project, as well as you as a film director. The application is organized into sections based on the review criteria panelists use to evaluate your application, and we'll go into those review criteria in detail in a little bit. There are suggested maximum lengths you should follow. This won't be enforced by Submittable because we don't want you to have to struggle to rewrite things to save just a word here or there, but you are strongly suggested to operate within the recommended limits. While Submittable does save your work as you go along, you might find it helpful to draft your responses in Word, Pages, or Google Docs, and then copy paste them into Submittable. That way you can keep track of your word count. In addition to the questions, you'll find further instruction below the text field in Submittable. So make sure to address all the details when you're responding to the questions. And there's one question where you have the option to respond either in writing or by uploading a video. The question is, how do you see your work as innovative, and or what creative risks are you taking to deepen and expand film forms? We provide the option of video as an alternative to writing here to allow you to respond in the medium in which you feel greatest comfort in conveying to the panel a real sense of who you are. If you choose a video response, do not do an artistic video that attempts to, artistically answer the questions or tries to squeeze in more work samples. There's no need for real high production values here. We're just looking for clean audio and video. In fact, you can even just use your phone to make a recording for this.
In your application, you'll provide a budget. For the production grant, we provide a sample template in the application to give you an idea of the level of detail that we're looking for and how to organize the fields. If you've already created a budget, that's great. You can totally use it as long as it also includes the information that's on the template budget. We have a whole video about how to create a film production budget on our website. I highly recommend. And again, that link is in the chat. For the mentorship grant, you will fill out a table with your budget amounts for each funding area, and remembering that your total should be $10,000 or less. As a reminder, these funds are dedicated to your professional mentorship activities and are not for hard production costs.
We'll get into the review process now. So first, the Jerome Foundation staff pre-screens applications just to confirm eligibility overall. Then applications are reviewed by an independent panel comprised of film directors and film professionals with wide-ranging experience in Minnesota and beyond. Panels are constructed to ensure that no single race or ethnicity constitutes a majority, and represents diversity in gender, age, and experience as well. A list of past panelists for this and our other programs is available on our website if you want to check it out. Panelists identify then a group of finalists to to be discussed at a full-day meeting where they will arrive at a collective set of recommendations. Those recommendations are reviewed and approved by the Jerome Foundation's Board of Directors. Feedback is offered to finalists, who have been discussed by the full panel, and finalists, including grantees, will be invited to set up a feedback appointment if they like.
Okay, we'll move now to the review criteria. Sorry, I'm just catching up. We provide the information about the review criteria to you, the applicants, as well as to the panelists, to understand how the application is evaluated. And we provide the exact same information to the panelists as we do to you. So everyone is working from the same definitions. The review criteria for the production program are slightly different than that of the mentorship program. So we'll discuss each separately. And we'll start with the production grant. The criteria are creative risk and vision, creative engagement and impact, and feasibility. And in addition, we prioritize supporting artists who share the foundation's core values, which we shared earlier. This first criteria of creative risk and vision is about the foundation's intentional embrace of risk-taking and curiosity as an emergent strategy for discovering and developing new ideas, methods, or approaches that have the potential for innovative or transformative outcomes. Jerome Foundation does not have a singular definition of risk, but the context for this value is framed by our commitments to intersectional racial equity and our values of risk, innovation, and humility. We recognize that not every risk-taking experience results in success, and we fully support trying and failing as part of the creative process. We consider risk broadly through the ways artists are expanding, questioning, experimenting with, or imagining film forms, practices, and approaches. The foundation acknowledges that definitions of risk related to resources tend to focus on risk avoidance, framing people as risks through the lens of racism and other forms of oppression. Not Jerome. We encourage and support artists to intentionally test, push, question, and experiment, and we welcome artists to share the ways that they are exploring creative risk. We recognize that inviting risk requires a respectful and nurturing environment built on trusting relationships. And we strive to support your work in a culture of care and belonging. We celebrate curiosity, learning, and empowerment, and healing over punishment, hierarchy, extraction, and exclusion. You'll see on the screen and on page 11 of the program and application guide some of the ways that filmmakers who have received this grant have defined creative risk. And we're sharing these examples because there's a direct question in the application that asks how you define creative risk for yourself. In terms of creative vision, we're looking for filmmakers who embrace their role and relationship for building community, have a clarity of purpose that is distinctive and authentic, and is focused on creating and sharing deeply considered, imaginative stories.
Next, we'll move on to the second criteria, creative engagement and impact, which is inspired the foundation's value around humility. This grant intends to support filmmakers who embrace their roles as part of a larger community of artists and citizens, and who work with a sense of purpose and responsibility. Panelists wish to understand why this project is important, the applicant's relationship to the subject matter, and the connection to the communities involved, as in addition to the desired impact of the film. Panelists assess the potential impact of the film on the director's career, as well as the director's potential impact on the larger field or community. Panelists will also assess whether the director has a clear idea of the community, participants, and our audience for the film, and how to work in relationship with them from creation to completion of the project. The application questions on timeliness and relevance, the applicant's self-assessment of their work, and the CV are all used to assess this criteria of impact on this filmmaker and their project.
The third review criterion is feasibility and the potential that a film can be made. Applicants are asked to provide detailed information about their project, their role or roles in the production, the project status and timeline, the production budget, including fundraising status and a contingency plan, the creative team, any producing partners or collaborators from the community involved, and the distribution plan and goals. Panelists will assess whether the planning is appropriate for the scope of the project and if the film director and their assembled team demonstrate capacity for completing the project as proposed. Understanding that every filmmaker is under-resourced and the innumerable ways that inequity impacts access to resources, financial need is not a criterion panelists use to assess applications.
Now we'll address the review criteria for the mentorship grant. And these criteria are impact, creative risk and vision, and feasibility. You'll notice that impact is the priority for this program, and that's because of its focus on mentorship.
To assess impact, panelists will consider filmmakers' mentorship goals, what they want to explore with this grant, and how these activities will further their work as a director, in addition to why this is the best time for self-designed mentorship, and the details about the mentors. In addition to considering the filmmaker's desired impact, panelists assess the potential impact of the mentorship activities, how it can contribute to the artistic development and career of the director, as well as their work, and the potential aesthetic or social impact of their work on the larger field or community.
The second review criterion of creative risk and vision is the same as what we shared for the production grant. So I won't go through all of that again, but as in the production grant, creative risk and vision are considered broadly. The creative vision is the same as for the production grant.
Next on to feasibility. So this again is indicated by your budget and how it aligns with what you've shared as your mentorship activities. So panelists will assess how your goals align with your plan and whether the scope of the artistic mentorship or professional development activities that you propose are reasonable and supported within your work samples.
Now, for both programs, applications are due before 4 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, April 3rd. Again, late applications will not be accepted and incomplete applications will not be considered. Once applications are submitted and the deadline closes, they may not be edited or updated. In order to troubleshoot any potential issues that may come up, an unexpected internet outage, slow upload time, anything like that, please do try to submit your application in advance of that deadline. You'll receive a confirmation screen as well as a confirmation email when your submission has gone through. Until you see those, your application is still in draft mode. And I'm available if you have any questions or need any assistance with the online application. We'll also be in touch if there are issues with your application related to accessing your work samples, but please don't take any links down, change your passwords for video links or privacy settings until you've heard about your application status. And this will happen no later than October 20th, 2025. So now we'll move into the Q&A portion of today. As a reminder, to ask your question, you can click on the Q&A button in your menu. And remember to click on the box to send anonymously if you want to do so. And if you have a question that's really specific to your project or maybe your eligibility status, we invite you to make an appointment with TA or Nell, and I'll drop a link to do so in the chat now. So let me just drop that in the chat and move on to our Q&A. It looks like we're looking for some questions to fill the queue.
One question that I already answered offline is whether or not you can be an enrolled student and apply if the project is separate from your studies. And unfortunately, no, you can't be enrolled in a degree program to apply. But once you are kind of post your education work, please circle back with us.
We do have a question asking for clarification on what CV stands for. And the technical term is curriculum vitae, but really it's different than like a one-page resume that you might create for another context. With the CV, we're really looking for like a comprehensive list of everything related to your filmmaking history. And I don't know if one of our staff wants to go into a little bit more detail about what that means.
Well, I would encourage you to listen to the CV webinar that we have developed because it goes into great detail and it gives you examples. And one of the most important things I think related to CVs is that you have a category where you list your directorial work as a filmmaker, separate from any other film work that you're doing as a producer or an editor or a performer. That's a really critical thing that panelists are looking for to try and understand, versus sometimes people will just put a list of films, and panelists can't understand what your role is on those films. So the CV is a really important piece.
We have a couple questions coming up about eligibility, and just a reminder, if you have more questions or if our responses lead you to uncover another question that you might have, again, that's what those phone appointments with staff are really good for, to really give you an assessment one-on-one. But one question is, are filmmakers who currently work in commercials but still produce independent films eligible for the production grant?
I can jump in on that one. So yes, if you, as long as you're within that 2 to 10 year frame of working as a filmmaker, directing work, and you have your own independent films separate from commercial, you're eligible.
A question about the length of career. So if a director has been working in film for about 10 years, but only like directing projects for about the past 7 or 8, would they still be eligible for the production grant?
Yes. I started as an editor and then moved into production. And so we're really focused on eligibility around your 2 to 10 years as a film director. So if you've only been a director for 7 to 8 years, you'd still be eligible.
That takes care of what we have in the queue, at least for now. Here we have another question. As a solo animator and director, I write, animate, build puppets and sets, etc., and might have just a few folks on my production team, like prop builders, a musician or composer, etc. Would a project like this still be eligible for a production grant?
I can take this one. Yes, it sounds like this project, you are the sole creative kind of force and director. And we understand that film is, inherently collaborative. So as long as you have full creative control, this project sounds like it would be eligible.
Animators wear a lot of hats, I have to say.
Another question kind of related to that 2 to 10 year time span. So if there's a long absence due to life or other work, etc., is a person still eligible? Maybe if it's been even years since they've directed projects?
Yeah,
Oh, that's, I'll start and then you can finish.
Sounds good.
Okay. I was going to say, this is a fairly nuanced question because if you don't have collectively 10 years of directing experience, you would be eligible in terms of number of years, as long as you're within that 2 to 10 year frame. But if you don't have work samples, the panelists ideally like to see work that's been made within the last 5 years. That would be a big question mark. So it might be good to set up a call with TA or Nell to just take a look at your CV and really dig into that eligibility piece. TA?
I was just going to say that like gaps are definitely very common, and I think without a closer look at yeah, kind of your history and your filmography and everything like that, yeah, I'd recommend just setting up a call and we can talk further.
Are music videos still worth sharing as a director, even if you do have complete creative control?
TA or Nell, you want me to take it? You, music videos are not eligible as a work sample because of the, kind of many questions that panelists have around understanding ownership and copyright and all of those issues related to music videos.
Yeah, I'd really encourage everyone to take a look in the program and application guide. There's that list that TA shared earlier of kind of ineligible types of work samples. Because when you're making your application, because we have 2 required work samples, you want to make sure that what you're providing as a work sample is something, that we can consider in your application. I'm not seeing any more questions in the queue. That's usually when one pops in, but not seeing anything at the moment.
Well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we wish you the best with your application.
Thank you.